Welcome to another Mother Runner, your best running friend in podcast form. We do all the talking, even on the uphills. I'm your host, Sarah Bowen Shea, and today I'm joined by Amanda Loudin as my co-host. Hello, Amanda.
Hi, Sarah. How's it going?
Good. I like that bike behind you.
Thank you. I do too. It's brand new to me.
Tell me about it.
Well, I think we've talked about this on past podcasts, but doing a little bit of gravel cycling on the side. And in June in particular, this will be my third year in a row doing a gravel bike race in the Adirondacks. Mm-hmm. And so when I first bought a gravel bike a couple of years back, it was very entry level, heavy, just, I don't know. It really impacted my descending because I don't know. I don't know how much you know about frame materials, but
hardly anything.
Steel is not very forgiving.
Correct. Yeah. It's rigid.
Right. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one's carbon, and I've always ridden a carbon bike in the past, back in my triathlon days. So anyhow, I really have been keeping my eyes open for either a used carbon bike or a new one. And I literally stumbled upon a 2025 carbon bike sitting at REI. I think it was a little bit more of a bike than what the average REI customer might want. And so I even talked them down to a lower price because it'd been sitting there.
Well done. Uh-huh.
Yes. And it was in my size and everything else. And so I've taken it out for one little ride so far. I need to get it fitted, which I'm doing tomorrow evening. Thus, why my bike is sitting behind me in my dining room. Yes.
That's okay. You can keep a bike in your dining room whenever you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely. So Feisty has, there's a whole podcast, Girls Gone Gravel, about gravel riding, and a lot of my new colleagues ride gravel, and Feisty has had gravel events and all this stuff. And I'm just like, and Dimity just bought a gravel bike. So I feel like it's in the ether. And but I'm just kind of a little confused. Oh, and Coach Liz rides gravel, and I'm just a little confused as the difference. I understand that bike looks different, particularly that has dropped handlebars. I understand that difference between that and a off-road bike, a mountain bike, whatever. But I don't know. I used to ride, I guess it was that I was riding a mountain bike on fire roads and stuff. I guess I don't know. Describe to me what to you gravel means.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with riding a mountain bike on fire roads or something like that. Gravel is, as you can tell from the way it looks, it's a closer cousin, I would say, to road cycling than it is to mountain biking. Mm-hmm. You've got a bit of a wider tire, a grippier tire. It's more knobby than a road tire, but also not as wide and knobby as a mountain bike tire. Mm-hmm. It typically does not have front shocks because you don't want all of that. You don't need all of that. So you get a bit of a road experience. There's speed to it, not as fast as the road for a lot of reasons, obvious reasons. But I think you get that thrill of the road, but you're typically on a gravel road or a gravel path, and you're not worrying about traffic. I think that's maybe been one of the big reasons why it has exploded in growth. And it is fun. It's a really fun experience. And I admittedly don't have a lot of gravel roads around me right here. I have to make a drive here or there, but down in Virginia, just over the border, one of the counties down there has spectacular gravel riding. And Matt and I will go down there. There's a bike shop that sponsors rides on Saturdays, group rides on Saturdays, all over. And it's very hilly and gravelly. And it's fun. It's a fun category. And it has exploded. It is the number one selling category of bikes right now.
Right. Yeah. I just feel like I want to, not let that train pull out of the station. But so I live, in inner Portland, so we don't have gravel roads around here.
Right. But do you have any pea gravel pathways? That's probably what Dimity gets on in Denver.
Yeah, no, we don't. Mm-mm. No, I
Yeah.
mean, my tax dollar does not go real far in Portland. Let's just say in terms of parks, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
There's Leif Erikson, which is an 11-mile fire road, but that's over on the other side of town, and it's not. It's hard packed. Depending on the time of year, it's hard packed dirt with some rocks on it.
Yeah.
And then there's trails going off of that, but I don't know. I'm sure people in Portland who know this type of stuff are probably howling at me because they know a lot of places. But um, also, I don't know. I am so reluctant now with the price of gas to drive anywhere to do a workout. Like
Yeah.
I specifically turn down pickleball invites if they're far away,
Yeah. Yeah.
and last week I didn't swim because I'm like, yeah, I don't need to drive 25 minutes to go to a pool, 25 minutes each way to go to a pool. Like
Yeah.
I'll just run another day.
Sure. Sure. Appreciate
Um,
that. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of gravel riding in the Pacific Northwest, but right now I'm not prepared to drive, an hour to get to it or 45 minutes
Yeah.
to get to it. Yeah.
I get that. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say one other little advantage to a gravel bike is you can take it on the road. There's no reason why you can't. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to be as fast as you would on a road bike, but it's the same kind of experience. So, I have plenty of times taken mine out with my friends with a road bike, and I have to work harder to keep up, but you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a little more versatile than just you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be on gravel with them, but you
Okay.
ideally will be on gravel with them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just sounds like a lot of fun when
It
you
really
can.
is. It really
Mm-hmm.
is. Because again, you get that sensation of going fast,
Mm-hmm.
but without the traffic and all of that goes along with it. I over my arc of years ago being a triathlete and all that. The game has changed on the roadways, and I attribute it right to all of our distracted driving.
Mm-hmm.
Drivers just, it wasn't like that back in the day. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a much more nerve-wracking experience on the roads these days.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
intriguing. Huh.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hey, and you're clipped in when you ride on gravel or no?
You
Uh-huh.
don't have to be, but yes,
Yeah,
I
no,
am.
I
Yeah,
was fine being, once I got over my fear of it, I was
yeah,
fine with it when
yeah,
I did ride on the road a million years ago.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I rode a lot. I rode bikes a lot more when I lived in San Francisco itself, and would go over into Marin County and loved riding over there and that freedom and how much ground you can cover on a
yeah,
bike compared to
yeah.
running.
It definitely beats running in that factor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that
Yeah,
is one of the many reasons why I love riding my Elliptigo. And there
yeah.
is one short gravel stint that I take my Elliptigo bike on. and,
And I mean, those wheels they're a little wider to begin with anyhow,
they
right?
are, they are.
Ellipticos. So yeah,
They're not very big in circumference or
right,
diameter. Yeah, I guess both.
right. But they could
Um,
probably handle a little
yes,
gravel. Yeah.
yeah. It's a little jarring, but
Hmm.
it's fine. Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's fun and it's super pretty where I go. So.
Nice.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right. Well, actually, our guest I know does gravel riding. That's not what she's
Nice.
known for, though.
Right.
Uh, this episode is the third in our month of feisty crossover episodes. Every Friday in April, a co-host and I have a conversation with a host from one of Feisty's other podcasts. Since in case you didn't get the memo, AMR is now part of the Feisty family, so I want to introduce listeners to other Feisty podcasts. Today, we welcome Hillary Allen, one of a trio of hosts of the Trail Society podcast, which, like Another Mother Runner, was an existing podcast that then came under the Feisty umbrella. And along with exploring part of her fascinating personal story, I brought on Hillary to talk about building resilience, confidence, and longevity in running, because she certainly shows those qualities in spades.
Yeah.
So, in addition to being podcast host, Hillary is a professional trail runner and the author of Out and Back, a runner's story of survival against all odds, which recounts a horrifying accident she had in the mountains of Norway in 2017. We will go into more details on that with Hillary. And thanks in part to her incredible recovery and comeback from that accident nearly a decade ago, Hillary lives by the credo, believe that your best days are ahead of you. I think we all need to hear from someone with that message. Hillary, we are so pleased you're able to join us. Thanks.
Yeah, a couple false starts, but we're here.
Yes.
That is the good news. So, Hillary, we always start by asking people about their athletic background. So, give us a picture of how you got started.
Oh man. Well, I think athletics has always been a really big part of just my family and my upbringing. I was one of those, well, we were one of those families that we basically like, I'm in my van recording this. Like we toured around in like our own version of a camper van. And I was like, and a baby Bjorn on my mom's chest before I could even walk. And then, like I was, like maybe my first steps were like out, in a campground somewhere,
Aw.
So,
Uh-huh.
we were just like, that's always just been a part of, my life. My father was a big runner. My sister was a runner. I just kind of did it for fun because I had eye-hand coordination, so I could like catch a ball. So I was like, did tennis and I did like all the other ball sports. I was
Oh.
always just very athletic. And I did like the cross country stuff for fun, like, the turkey trot 5Ks. And then, I played tennis in college.
Mm.
And then it wasn't until I graduated and I was in graduate school and moved back to Colorado that I started running because it was just more time efficient, and
Sure.
tennis was too expensive, like
Mm-hmm.
monetarily, but also from a time perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always appreciated the simplicity of running. I felt like it kind of like going back to my roots. So yeah, and then from there, I basically just like randomly discovered trail running. Like I grew up in Colorado, grew up in Fort Collins, have always been hiking, camping, but like been very familiar with mountain landscapes, but had no idea that people ran in them. And and it wasn't until I trained for my first marathon and so happened to be a part of this running group where Janie Day, she is this woman who had the record on the Pikes Peak ascent in the 80s.
Oh. Uh-huh.
She like took me under her wing and she was like my coach and mentor, and she like, showed me this whole new world of trail running, and literally the rest is history. I tried it. I had like a knack for uphill running, and then I just was kind of like exploring different distances and things from there. So
Wow.
Nice.
yeah.
They need to hand out flyers. You can run on trails here in Colorado.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
More efficient way of getting through the wilderness, and pretty fun too.
Yeah.
So please describe the Trail Society podcast for gals who haven't ever listened to it, and also tell us briefly how you and your co-host connected and started it.
Oh my gosh, yes. So this was a passion project. So again, okay, with running, not only trail running, but running, it's like my favorite thing to connect with friends and like share ideas, like catch up on a run. And I think this was like an idea that, so there's three of us. It's me, Corinne Malcolm, and Keely Henninger. And we're all scientists, and we're obviously all females. And we would always have this conversation, like, I had a conversation with Corinne many times, like, we'd always catch up on runs, and we'd always talk about science because she's a coach, I'm a coach. We'd always talk about these. We used to share the same coach who was also a scientist himself, and we'd always have these crazy ideas and like talk about, women's physiology and trying to learn, but about ourselves as athletes, but understanding there's kind of like a gap in the knowledge, and there's a lot. I think that's kind of, and then Corinne was having this conversation with Keely, and then I'd have this conversation with Keely, and we're all kind of like, friends and members of the community. And yeah, then we just basically, started it together with the idea of centering topics around female athletes, females in sport, science-driven research, research-backed findings, the latest studies that are out there, different, topics that interest us from, we just published an episode not too long ago about like iron deficiency. I'm in grad school again. My first round is for neuroscience and physiology, and now I'm back in grad school for applied sports psychology. And so the last episode that I recorded literally yesterday was about like self-belief and the science behind that. And so it's like literally, and then, but yeah, the main theme is just trying to bring more awareness to women in sport. And Keely is, now she's in med school, and that's one of her biggest passions is to study women physiology and women for it specifically in women athletes. And so we're trying to be that resource for everyone. And I think, yeah, and it's not just a podcast for women listeners. It's like guys should listen too. They can learn something. I'm pretty sure they know a woman. So
and we've had to listen to too much science about just men, so it's time for the shoe to be on the other foot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah. So, this is a much needed podcast out there. Based on some of the research that you've done and some of the topics that you've covered, have you gotten into anything recently that talks about how getting older doesn't have to spell the end of your running habit?
Yeah, honestly, I love this. So, what first comes to mind is, okay, so I'm 37 and I just last year made the world's team for the vertical kilometer, which, it's typically a race where it's, we always say it's like, oh, okay, the fast twitch athletes, the young athletes, whatever. But my teammates were 25. Like, I think really, really the biggest thing for this is I do think that is if you like something like exercise, it actually is what I've read about research from, biology and biochemistry. Exercise is one thing that can actually like physiologically keep you young. And so, of course, as athletes, we become wiser and we figure out, what our limits are. We have to have like, the appropriate dose of all of these things, right? But as long as you keep up that habit, it's one of the biggest like protectors from aging out there. Like back to this thing about self-belief, I've been reading some science about like people's perception and the stories that they tell themselves. And there was one particular, I don't have the authors in my head, but I have the meat and potatoes of the of the article itself. It is talking about how these some older people like they're in a nursing home, and basically they had them like they were looking, it was kind of like nostalgia. They were looking back on times in their life, when they were younger, and they kind of had them like almost like play this role for like a week or something at a time. And they would actually notice like physiological changes in their body. And it's like, I think it's like our perception of it. And I think something that I've worked really hard on for myself with, all these injuries that I've dealt with, and working my way back to sport. It's believing in my best athletic days ahead. And knowing that doesn't necessarily have to take the form of a running PR, but it can be a PR at a new distance, a new type of running, a new sport entirely. And it's just like, I mean, it's relative. It's how we define it. And I think it really starts like, in our brain, and then it can actually affect our physiology. Yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect system. I'm not denying science that like, most diseases out there are caused by just simply aging. But I think the longer we can have like good habits and a good mindset around it, you can live a really long and healthy life.
So, and you alluded to your injuries. We realized you wrote an entire riveting book about your accident, and recovery and lessons learned. So we need you to boil it down as best you can. So, what happened and what did your recovery look like from that horrific accident?
Yeah. So when I mentioned like I got into trail running, I just like went in the deep end. I have this nickname called the Hilly Goat, and I really like uphill running. And I was drawn to these races in the U.S. called the Sky Running Series. It's still a series happening now. They have one in the U.S. and all over the world. But they boast like the steepest and kind of most technical type of trail running out there. Like on a 50-kilometer race, you could climb anywhere between like minimum 12,000 feet to 14,000 feet and 50K. So it's quite steep.
Yes.
And usually really technical. And I got into that, and I won a national title for it. I started competing on the World Series, and it brought me to some really beautiful places. And I had this goal of trying to win the World Skyrunning Series, which would have been like the first American to do so. And I basically reached that number one ranking, and I was kind of on my final, like almost like a victory lap of the final race of the season. All I needed to do was kind of finish. And basically it was in Tromsø, Norway, on this very, technical ridgeline where in skyrunning it's not uncommon to have this like third or fourth class type of terrain where you're basically like you're like basically the class is like running is first class because you have one appendage on the ground. Hiking is second class because it's like 2 feet. Third class, put a hand down. Fourth class, you're kind of scrambling. Okay. So, yeah, that's basically the terrain that was on. And I basically was on this ridgeline, feeling really good, basically stepped on a rock. It gave way underneath my foot. And basically it was 1 minute I was running and the next I was in the air and I fell in total 150 feet off of this cliff. And like, bounced, rolled, which is like, incredible because I hit the ground multiple times before I finally slid to a stop. Had a like helicopter rescue. I mean, I was the person who first was on the scene. He told me later that he didn't actually even check for vitals. He didn't even check to see if I was breathing because he had never seen someone survive a fall like that.
Oh my goodness.
He thought he was doing like a body recovery. So like I was very, very, very lucky to have survived. But the damage was significant. I broke, 14 bones, including my back, both feet, ankles. I ruptured this ligament in my foot, which, everyone else that I've seen have this injury, it's like a football injury or like a soccer injury. And, it's described as career ending. And that's what the surgeon said to me before she operated on my foot. And, it was basically, when it was all said and done and like, I was kind of just like recovering, I was faced with this choice of like, okay, well, I could either like listen to them and like give up and like just be like, all right, I'm done. Like, I'm just going to pivot and do something else. Or I could try. I could see if I could, get back. And that was kind of the beginning of this very long process of, having this dream of wanting to run one day again and fear of not being elite anymore and having to let that go and basically just doing it because movement meant that much to me. And seeing if I could get back to running. And arguably, it's going to be 9 years ago this summer. Arguably, I'm like still in recovery because I'm not the same athlete I was before this happened. But I did get back. It was like a little over a year before I ran my first race again after this accident. And, basically I think it was, something within like not too far outside of a year of me winning, my first race after this accident. It's been, since then it's been up and down. I've had, over the past 9 years, like 7 surgeries and like a lot of other injuries kind of related to the initial fall. But it's also been amazing because I've realized so many things that have made me, that I've had all along, but it was an opportunity for me to explore like really what inner strength and resilience looked like and what I was capable of when I was kind of, at rock bottom. And I could choose to believe in my own strength or I could choose to like kind of give up, even though sometimes the giving up felt like what I wanted to do. And it's been really painful, but I've learned a lot. And now it's kind of like, like I said, I'm a coach. It's propelled me into this other avenue where it's like realizing that, okay, like I can train and be the best, like physically fit I've ever been. But if your brain and your mind isn't right, then you have no shot in hell with anything. And so, or even being happy, and so, that's kind of, put me down this path of like basically devoting my life's work to resilience, like my own personal, I feel like life's work as an athlete to show that hopefully as like a leader in sport and like an example to show other people that they can do hard things too. But then now also in my coaching, of studying, sports psychology and applying that to the business world or like, high performers in any space and, helping people, figure out how capable they are. So that's something I've learned in a nutshell.
Wow. Wow.
Very cool.
Wow. So, so what are your best practices for trying to ensure your best days are ahead of you
Ooh, this
after
is
all
so
that?
hard. And it's not perfect. I am not like, I mean, we're recording this. We were talking about this yesterday. I'm actually going through an injury right now, and even though I've gone through so many, it sometimes takes a little bit to kind of to get into it. So, we had to reschedule because I was just like not in a really good mental space. And I think the biggest thing is that knowing that it's okay to struggle, to have, a day or two where it feels heavy, like you feel it's like grieving, like you're going through something that's like a loss, and then to set a limit and say, okay, I'm going to give myself until the end of today. And then tomorrow we're going to like go back to crushing things. And and that doesn't mean that the sadness won't come back, but it gives me basically, I'm not allowing myself to drown in it, to like drown in the deep end. You know what I mean? And so with that, if you have I have this, the skill, the ability to do that, but because I've been there before. Right. But, letting other people in, letting them know that you're struggling. Like, I think that's like my best practice for the early stages. And then really the best practice that I have for other things is really working on the stories that you tell yourself, the self-talk that we say to ourselves. I think it's very normal for most people, for us to have like these negative and this like hypercritical, especially for athletes and high functioning individuals. But really trying to pump yourself up, be your own like best friend and best advocate, and have like, positive self-talk. One of the biggest things that I've done in my self-talk is personify it in the third person, which I actually read a couple of research studies that shows that that's actually most effective. So saying like, Hillary, you got this, like, Hillary, you can do this. It actually is really helpful. And another like it's as opposed to, like, you can do this or I can do this. If I were to rank it, like, I can do this is like, I think the least powerful. You can do this is like a little bit of a step up, but if you use your name, it's kind of like, yeah, let's go.
Interesting.
I use my sports nickname when I talk to myself in my head. So
This
maybe
is
that's
good.
the the top level. Yeah.
See, and I like again, I have like, Hilly, go, you got this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, switching gears a little bit from injury, do you have any advice or anecdotes to spur on women who are feeling a bit stuck with their running in whatever that might look like? Maybe it's with their performance or enthusiasm or whatever it might be.
Yes. So this is also, and this kind of goes into, sports psychology, but also just in life in general. Okay, running is hard. It just is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it never gets easier,
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's always just another, hurdle to jump over, or another barrier to kind of get past. So it never gets easier. So just like admitting that, but also it's supposed to be fun. Like, the reason we do these things is because we enjoy it. We love it. We love to move, right? And I think there's an inherent, like, we like the hard thing. And so I think if anyone is struggling with their running, whether it's like getting to a new PR, like feeling like it's, it's just hard, go back to a time in life when it was fun. And try to make it like, it's funny because we say like, oh, I play sports, right? But like, you play running, but like try to get that back in, whether it's just like, whether it's running with a friend or like running a new route or, going to a new place, try to make it fun. And I think the more and if that, I feel like here's the thing, if someone is attached to like their watch or their splits or whatever, run without your watch. Like just try to like have it just be for fun and enjoyment, and then see what happens. And I think try to inject that purposefully into your training like every week. And I think it helps.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to pause for a short sponsor break. Stick around for more of our conversation with Hillary. Okay, so resilient. I think it's a feeling, a way of being a lot of active women pursue. I know it's something you're very passionate about, as you mentioned. So how can adding trails into the mix make a runner more resilient?
Ooh, okay.
Both in head and body. How about?
Okay. Yeah. So, all of this stuff that I like, okay, I think people like mistakenly think that resilience is something that you just have and you don't.
Mm.
You know, but it's a skill. It really is a skill that you can practice. And I've had to sharpen my resilience knife many times or tool, whatever it is. But like, I have a whole belt of resilience tools that like, then I get to like, use every time something happens. And so I think, but again, I think it has to be a little bit more purposeful in how we look at it. So you're building resilience, yes, when you run, just inherently, because like I said, it's hard, it's challenging getting out the door, right? Or if it's like not bad, if it's bad weather. But it's basically putting a little bit more attentional focus onto it. So, I think and like less expectation. So for instance, if it's a road runner going onto the trail, understanding that, okay, well, this is a totally different sport. Like I'm like, it's pace doesn't really matter, especially if we're going uphill. We have to kind of go into like heart rate. There's a little bit more skill involved with, learning how to run technical trails. So it's like, again, like that analogy is like we have this whole tool belt of like all of these tools that are like for resilience. And it's like, okay, well, then we're going to use this one, but I haven't used this resilience tool yet because I don't know how to run technical trails. So it's like, thinking of it as like, okay, like this beginner mindset, like, okay, how can I practice this new skill? Like, and just almost having a little bit of like, set the expectation, like don't have such high expectations, like, just try to enjoy it, like the learning process of it. And then, yeah, just like every new setback is just an opportunity to learn something. And that is resilience in a nutshell. It's basically our ability to have composure under pressure is kind of the basic definition of resilience. So like thinking of like the pressure of just like under different circumstances or different events, like our ability to like, you might freak out for a little bit, but then you can still like, maintain composure, take in the new stimulus, and then like keep on trucking. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for people who are watching us, yes, Amanda dropped off. She had to run. So
at least we get to speak with her for a little bit. So
yes. So, okay. So now let's talk about confidence.
Yeah.
So I think some women are nervous about running on trails.
Yes.
Either because they feel they don't know how to do it, or it seems intimidating because it's not like 4 miles around this familiar loop, in their neighborhood or around a suburban park. So help gals turn those concerns on their heads. How do you believe trail running can imbue confidence rather than be something you need confidence to do?
Right. So again, it's this thing. It's a skill that you can train. And confidence is not something that you have or you don't. I think it's something that you choose.
Oh, that's intriguing.
So it's like those people, I'm thinking of those people who are like, if you think of someone who's the most confident in your circle, right? Well, at the end of the day, it can just be a choice. You can choose to be confident, right? And you can choose to practice this skill, right? And so I think, it's kind of like fake it till you make it, but like, yeah, like choose to try on this. Okay, I'm going to be confident. I'm going to try a trail today, right? It doesn't doesn't mean you have to like PR it or anything, but it's these little opportunities you have to train it. And so what I really like to think about is, okay, so I like to have little I love to-do lists, but have like little checkpoints. So it's basically how can I put like energy or like money in the bank into my confidence bank? And how I do it is I basically have like a set of like little goals. So it's like, okay, so we're going to try to run a trail and that's going to be hard. So, okay, cha-ching, I've gotten up and I'm at the trailhead. Well, that's like okay, so sweet. Like I'm already more confident. I'm already out here doing it. Right. And then the next one is okay, well then like, then you're out on the loop and like you maybe feel like a little bit scared because it's like you don't know, or, you're maybe running a bit slower, but you're still out there and you're like, running on with rocks and things like that. That's another thing to like be proud of, right? So you're like building your confidence in real time with these little goals. And I think, what other way can you build that confidence unless you're trying something completely new,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because that doesn't feel the same way. Like if it's just your regular old, you know, loop that you do around your neighborhood, you know, it feels good, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
maybe doesn't have like the same allure. So I think with that, if you're not able to do it in real time, like something that can actively build confidence is writing down those things, like either before you run or like at the beginning of your run. It's like, okay, so what are the things that maybe I'm scared of that are like preventing me from going out there, and write them down. And then at the end, you can be like, oh, well, actually, okay, so I was scared of like rocks, but like actually I just slowed down a little bit and I picked up my feet a little bit more, had a big, like more like was purposeful with my cadence, and it was fine. And you know, or if it's like, oh, maybe I stubbed my toe a little bit, but like, you know, I didn't fall. It's fine. You're not going to fall off a cliff like me. So, you know, that should boost your confidence. But it's little things like that. And then reflecting on, I think it's like doing the thing, making sure you feel proud about doing the thing in the moment, like using that positive self-talk, and then reflecting upon it afterwards to be like, yeah, I did the thing. And so that is a way to actually feel more confident. And really, like I said, there's no other way to build it aside from doing something new.
So, and you mean even as when you talk about writing it before you go out there, it could be something even bringing your workout journal with you in the car, you know, have it next to on the seat next to you, and then before you head, you know, you're waiting there for a couple minutes, writing in it while you're in your car, and then when you're done with the run, get back in the car, write down how it worked.
Yeah, it could do that. Or like I'm a big routine person, and I like to, you know, I'm sure like lots of runners, they plan, but like even in your training log, like the night before, you know, or it's like I always write out my to-do list, like the day before. And so it's like writing those things down. Right. But then, you know, you can like, you know, read it or like think about it before you go out the door, and then just having those things. And I think again, like the final thing, something that really actively builds confidence is like that inner dialogue. I actually I have it here with me for those of you who are watching. I bring it with me everywhere, but it's a mantras in motion training log and planner.
Sunshine, I got questions about mantras coming up. I can ask it next.
That like this is a perfect segue then. It's like the mantras, like I had a lot of trouble with one of my injury recoveries of returning back to like downhill running. And so what really helped build my confidence is like I would literally say to myself when I felt myself get tense and I felt myself like get hesitant, I said, I am a good downhill runner. Like, Hillary, you are a good downhill runner. And I remember this moment when I was like, I started to say this underneath my breath, and I was running with my coach at the time. And he started to say it with me. And then by the end of the run, we were both like yelling, like, we are great downhill runners. And it was like super fun. And I could feel my confidence, you know, increasing.
Good. Awesome. Okay. So, you mentioned your very darling nickname, Hilly Goat, because of your ability to run fast and up steep, technical, you know, mountain terrain, and that you actually enjoy doing it. You love doing it. So what do you say to people who shy away from hilly running routes? Maybe I'm not even talking necessarily trails. It could just be the hilly section of their neighborhood. And can you share some hill climbing advice? So again, either on the road or trail.
Yeah, so I think really what helped me get into this to trail running is because I really wasn't a runner before. Like I was, but I like used running to train for other sports. So I saw it as kind of like a means to an end, but I wasn't just like married to this idea of being a runner. And so when I went out on the trails, I was not afraid to embrace what is called a power hike. Like to me, when I'm out on a trail, running and power hiking, that's just what's going to happen. And especially when you go up, like uphill. And it is not a consolation prize. Like there's a difference between walking and hiking and power hiking. Like, and I just basically, I kind of go by like effort and heart rate. I've done intervals where I'm power hiking, and I can like outrun someone who's running beside me and I'm hiking. So it's like, but this is a skill, but I basically think that sometimes runners, we have to kind of like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. It's not bad that you're walking, because if you're hiking and you're keeping your heart rate up, like that's actually the most efficient way to get up the hill if it gets super steep. There's been studies at CU Sports Med about this. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of just being like, this is part of it. Like if you're not like if there was a phrase for this thing when I was getting into cycling. If you're not hiking, you're not biking, like for a bike packing route. And I'm like, wait, what? This doesn't make any sense. But it made sense to me after the route because like, it like would get steep and your bike's heavy and you have to get off and walk and you're like still like, breathing hard and working hard. It's the same concept with running. Like if you're not trail running to uphill is like, there is a power hiking aspect. I think it's like maybe the name is different. If you think about it as opposed to walking, but you put like the name power hiking.
Oh, yeah. It's all about the branding.
Exactly. So then you're like, I'm power hiking. And then, you can hike at a pace where your heart rate is up and like you're, it's for trail, especially uphill. Again, it's a skill that you can train. But not being afraid of that and like not being married to pace, but basically being trained more with like effort, right? Because turns out if you're going uphill, the effort's higher anyways. And
right.
Yeah. and it's normal to slow down. So
right.
Yeah.
All right. So we know you're a fan of journaling. So talk about how writing in a journal can bolster or foster mental resiliency.
I love this question. So first and foremost, there is actually science that backs that up. I think there's a few things with learning and memory. Like if you were going to go write down something, the likelihood of you actually accomplishing said task was significantly higher, even if you didn't go back and read the note that you wrote. So there's something, I mean, there's a reason we have senses like sight, touch, smell, and, like hearing. So that's what I love about writing is because not only are you engaging your touch, but your cognition, you're actually like talking to yourself as you're writing it down and seeing it. So it's like almost like, it's like you have to practice something 10,000 hours where there's like 3 in 1 right there. So,
can we count those as 3 separate hours then?
Maybe that's what I'm saying. It's like, more bang for your buck, which efficiency I love. So, but again, I just do think that, I have a lot, of energy. I have a lot of thoughts and I have a lot of just, things bouncing around my head. And like journaling is a place where I feel like I can center myself. I can slow down and I can really think and try to formulate my, if I'm, panicking or going through some like really hard emotions, like journaling is a place where I can actually get them out clearly on paper and being like, oh, okay, this is actually what's bothering me. And so, yeah, the practice of journaling, I think it's a way also, I've mentioned self-talk many times on this, when we're talking, but it's a way to like really, what is that self-talk looking like? And I'm not perfect. Like it's very natural for it to be negative, right? And I'll like get this thing where I'm like having these negative self-talk, but then I look at it and I read it and I'm like, I'm saying that to myself. Like, all right, we gotta do something different here. Right. And, I mentioned this journal. It's like basically every week I use it as like, a training log and a planner. And so I've got these chicken scratches everywhere, but there's one little box at the beginning of each week that says my mantra of the month. And I write something in that. So it's the first thing I see every time I open my journal. So no matter how chaotic things are, I can look at that and that's something that can ground me. And then what I end up doing is if I'm really struggling, then I rewrite it, throughout the week. So, I'll share one that I have right now. It says, what are my limiting beliefs and who would I be without them? And it's like, yeah, it's like basically what are the stories I'm telling myself that are holding me back? And what if I didn't tell myself those things anymore? And so,
So you're very contemplative in your journal.
It doesn't have to be. Sometimes there's I can do one that's like, it is contemplative, but some of the other ones is like, hilly goat, you got this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's crush the week. Like, if I know it's a really hard week, it can just be as simple as that. But yes, I do spend a lot of time thinking about very complex questions.
And then I have to ask, I did notice that your pen is one of those ones that you can write in different colors with the same pen. I mean, gosh, that took me right back to elementary school. Those, because they were kind of expensive. So,
See, I splurged on myself, and
yeah,
I have
you're
this is
worth it.
one. I have another one that's different colors.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's good. It's like I write my to-do list and like I color code it, and like the training and then the to-do, and then I cross it out in a different color.
Wow. So you have now, do you stick to a system, or is it just,
Nah.
Today the
Yeah.
to-do list is in blue and I'm going to check it off in red.
Yeah, and I look at like, I like to have lots of different colors. If I did like the to-do list in blue yesterday, then today will be in black or
Oh,
green.
of course. Oh,
Or fuchsia. There's some other pretty cool colors. And the thing is that since I'm back in school, like I get to do my own back to school shopping. So I have lots of cool pens.
So you don't have to have mom approve the pen purchase. No.
Exactly.
Oh my. Isn't it so great to be an adult?
Yeah, I know. I'm responsible for my own finances, so it's my own fault.
You have to
I'm
pay the
broke
credit
by my
card bill
one
for those
pen.
school expenses,
Yeah.
school supplies. Yeah. All right. Well, great talking with you, Hillary. Thanks for taking time.
Yeah, that was so great. Thank you.
All right. Well, to listen to more about trail running, training, and racing with Hillary and her co-hosts, listen to Trail Society wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening and maybe watching on YouTube and seeing that multicolor pen that Hillary uses. Our show is a production of Another Mother Runner and Feisty Media. For more on Feisty and our other shows, events, workshops, and Feisty Fest, visit feisty.co. That's feisty.co.